All righty. So we have got the psychosocial considerations of aging. And what we mean by that is like, we want to understand a little bit about like what it means psychologically as we start to get older, what it means like motivation wise as we start to get older when it comes to coming to the gym, and sort of like what, how to understand like maybe what our client is, where they're coming from. So we want to understand one of our big concepts, and we've definitely talked about this before in other classes. If you've been through our program design classes where we talked about psychology, but the body and mind are not necessarily separate things. We know that they are definitely both influencing each other, and so we're going to be looking at how obviously like physical aspects are going to be related to like psychological aspects. Psychological can be related to like emotional, and all of that kind of comes together in a well-rounded like social well-being. So we're going to be kind of looking at all those things today. We want to understand, like I said, the reasons why an older adult may actually pursue like a new fitness program, what it means there. And so our objectives today that we definitely want to understand how we can influence like the overall quality of life of our clients, if we can improve that, how to effectively motivate our clients, and then the steps in helping our clients like obviously achieve more, because at the end of the day, like we're not trying to help our clients just sort of live through their workout. We're trying to help them thrive through their workout, right? And so we want to help them achieve as much as they are capable of. Health related quality of life, obviously, when we're talking about quality, at the end of the day, we are being hired to improve someone's quality of life, right? When we were talking about like all of the various conditions and diseases in the last class, right? A lot of those diseases cannot be cured through exercise. Heck, even exercise itself doesn't necessarily directly impact most of those things, right? But we do know that if we can improve outside factors, the things that are improved through exercise, right? Simply having a little bit more stamina, simply reducing aches and pains, having a little bit more energy, all of like those things that sort of come along with just exercise in general, lead to an overall improved quality of life. And at the end of the day, that is what our clients are hiring us for. Whether your client tells you that they, they're here to like lose weight, or they want to look a certain way, or, they say that, they're trying to like win some, basketball tournament or something, so they want to get in good shape for that, or, it doesn't matter what weird goal your client comes to you with. At the end of the day, they're trying to improve quality of life. Anybody who's ever purchased anything, that is the reason they purchased it at the end of the day, so when it comes to improving quality of life through like health related stuff, we need to have a pretty good understanding of the psychological aspects of that, and one of the sort of foundations of that is understanding our self-perception, right? Self-perception, just like it says in the name, is how an individual is going to perceive themselves, right? And we know that this has a very large impact on our overall quality of life. So when we talk about like how we see ourselves, right? We mean that there's a couple different like aspects of this, right? Some of it can be like our self-esteem, right? That's like how valuable you think you are, like whether or not you feel that you have like the same needs and wants as someone else, or whether or not you think that like you deserve those things, right? So when we talk about like self-perception, I was just thinking about this the other day because I was watching like an Instagram reel or something, and it was like somebody from the Midwest bumping into somebody else from the Midwest, and I was like, "Oh, sorry." I was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry." It's like, "Oh no, I'm sorry." It's like, "No, it says I'm sorry." And it's like that's like a really funny like video to kind of highlight how polite people can be, how overly polite people can be in like the Midwest. But I think that it also kind of highlights like we all know that person who, will often like apologize. This may be you actually. You may find that like you apologize even if like you're the person that got bumped into, And I think that sometimes that comes down to sort of highlighting a lack of like this esteem, right? Like, it could come from a place of just wanting to be overly polite, but a lot of times like it can kind of highlight the fact that, maybe you are putting someone else's wants and needs before your own 100% of the time, when in like the reality should be that like, your wants, your needs, they're just as valuable as someone else's. And so your feelings of self-worth are definitely something that we want to analyze and understand, because like if we have a client who doesn't feel like they belong in the gym, which let me tell you, like senior clients will have that opinion all the time. I see that constantly. Or they feel like, their appointment is less important, or, their time is less valuable, right? Those feelings are coming from some place, but they're certainly not like accurate, or at least they, shouldn't be accurate, right? So we want to encourage our clients like, hey, like, I'm here to work for you. And we're trying to like give you like the best session possible. So self-perception is part of that, right? It's your feelings of like self-worth and value and things. But it's also your feelings of self-efficacy. And we know that self-efficacy can actually affect that self-esteem, those feelings of self-worth, right? Efficacy is your belief that you have the ability to accomplish tasks that you set out to accomplish. Right. So like, I'm sure that we can think of a million different examples in our lives of times that maybe we had low self-efficacy. I remember like before I started like investing in like, like financial investments and stuff. I remember just like, my family and we grew up like with very little extra money. And so I just never really bothered to learn about what to do with money, like it was just one of those things like, oh no, just like being wealthy is just not really in the cards for somebody in my situation. It's like, that's fine. And I just kind of accepted that and moved on with my life, and I always thought that it was going to be way too complicated or, impossible to sort of like learn and grasp, not that I had like the cynical aspect of like the game is rigged or anything like that. I just was like, well, it's a matter of practicality, and then like, I started like, they started coming out with things like Robinhood and Webull and Acorns and like all these little things that kind of made it seem like a lot of average Joes were sort of taking advantage of, the stock market and, learning how to like grow their wealth and things like that. And I was like, that's kind of fascinating. And then I started learning about it, and I was shocked to learn that it's very simple. Actually, it's honestly not that complicated. It is, as long as you're taking like, low risk investments, it's actually not a very unapproachable thing. It's actually very approachable. And that blew my mind, So I'd like to think that like, that's a good example of just like, I had zero efficacy. I was like, I have no confidence in my ability to like use this tool that everyone has access to in order to like grow wealth for my future. And that was simply proven untrue. That was sort of, proven quickly untrue, actually. And so like my confidence in my ability to accomplish like certain financial tasks was really low. And then as I sort of started to like play around with it and experiment with it, my confidence in that has definitely gone up. So that's what I mean when we say like self-efficacy, except in this case, it's people investing in themselves, right? It's like people who learn to live with like aches and pains. Over the years, they just kind of deal with it, and they're like, oh, well, these things really can't get better, or like, I can't get in shape. There's no world in which I can, accomplish like physical tasks anymore. And like, we simply know that that's not true. So we want to find ways to improve our clients' self-efficacy by giving them things that like they can accomplish and achieve and overcome, which always feels really good. We are a task-driven species. And then that's going to improve our overall self-esteem as well. So self-efficacy, like I said, it's the belief or confidence in your ability to accomplish certain tasks. So like, honestly, it's always really fun to like set out specific tasks. I hope that everybody in this call right now, I hope you guys have like little short-term goals that you're working towards. This is one of the reasons why I always tell you guys, people will, I get the question sometimes like, what's the number one tool? Like, you know, if somebody's building a home gym, they'll ask me, they're like, if I'm building a home gym, what's the number one like thing I should buy? Is, you know, like I got a yoga mat, I got a pair of dumbbells, like, you know, but I got a little bit extra money, I got some space in the closet, I want to build like the next thing. And it's kind of funny, but like I always give sort of a curveball answer to that question. The number one tool that I think everyone should buy is just a workout journal. um, I think that is like the most valuable tool for any gym goer out there, more than any supplement, more than any you know, special gym membership with fancy equipment, or you know, anything like that. I think getting a freaking workout journal where you can track progress is huge, because like when we see that's like, oh, I used to be able to do 10 push-ups and now I can do 15, and then next week I'm going to try for 20, you know, being able to like track that kind of progress. Or I used to lift this much weight, but now I can lift this much weight. I used to do this many reps and now I can do this many reps. That tracking aspect is like lightning in a bottle for our brains. You know, like we just respond very, very, very well to that type of like reinforcement. You know, when we see our progress like charted out on paper, we respond to it very well. Like I said, we are a task driven species in a lot of ways, you know. And so using tools that are going to help us like track that stuff easily, I think is a great way to improve your self-efficacy, because you see yourself accomplishing something and you start to believe more and more that you can accomplish more and more, right? So we want to enhance that belief that we can accomplish certain tasks, right? This is one of the reasons why I love themes. I love like short-term goals. You know, I'll be working with a client and I always try to get from them like little short-term goals that we can work towards, in addition to like a big long-term goal. And the big long-term goal always seems scary, and you know, it always seems like it's so far in the future that we'll never be able to accomplish it, you know. But then over time and over practice, you know, we get closer and closer and closer by achieving like little smart goals, little tiny goals, smart goals, short goals. Love smart goals as well, but we achieve these like little short-term goals, and then it just builds, right? It's like, well, if I can do that, then I can do this. Oh, well, if I can do that, well, then I guess I can do this, you know, and it just builds our confidence. And so I absolutely love focusing on self-efficacy. And then self-esteem, like, you know, a lot of times like feelings of like body image and things like that are related to our self-esteem. You know, we kind of live in a world that continually reinforces this idea that you are only valuable if you look a certain way or act a certain way, or if you have a certain amount of money, or if you drive a certain car. You know, we're kind of reinforced every day when we see like media and stuff like that, that's sort of telling us those things, you know. We see it in our TV, we see it in our movies, we see it in advertising, you know, all the time. And like, that's on purpose, you know. Advertising is literally analyzing this same information that we're talking about right now, you know, like, that's all advertising is at the end of the day. It's a lot of psychology. And it's meant to sort of like, you know, prey on the fact that like we only feel that we are valuable if blah blah blah, you know. And so those feelings of self-worth are very tied to, you know, body image, or you know, as we get older, our body image sort of, you know, sometimes decreases, right? Because like we don't feel as athletic as we used to, you know. And so a lot of clients, a lot of senior clients in particular, will feel very uncomfortable in like a gym. And I've seen this all the time. This is why like particularly like senior fitness centers even exist, you know. Same thing is true with like female clients, you know. This is why like gyms like Curves exist. And even like we could keep analyzing, it's the reason why places like Planet Fitness exist. And look, here's the thing, like I think there are certain aspects of Planet Fitness that are a little silly. I think the lunk alarm thing, I think is actually shameful in its own way, and I really hate that thing. And I really, and I don't necessarily know how I really feel about like, yeah, I think they do like pizza Fridays or something like that, or pizza Mondays or whatever day they have like, pizza and they bring it to the gym and stuff. But I think that like the idea of an overall business model that is built around the idea of making everyone feel accepted and making everybody feel like they belong, and that it's a very non-threatening, easy to approach gym. I think that like every gym should be like that. So if Planet Fitness is the one that's, actually achieving that, then like I have no room to judge. Yeah, I would love it if they had some more free weights, like rather than, I think it's like a machines only gym. I'm not sure. I don't think they'd have like even like bench presses, right? Um, to be fair, I only walked into a Planet Fitness like briefly. um, but like I think they're mostly like machines. But even that, like that's meant to be like an approachable thing. And so if that makes somebody feel more confident or comfortable in like a setting like that, and doesn't prey on like the negative aspects of self-esteem, who are we to judge, right? In fact, I would argue like, let's go past that. What can we learn from something like that? If this is a very successful business model, what can we take away from that? And how can we apply it to like our gyms and what we're doing with our clients, Um, let's make our senior clients feel comfortable. Let's make our and this, same thing is true with any population, right? Our weight loss clients, our youths, right? So that is sort of it still feels like I'm kind of in the intro here, because I'm on like a big soapbox right now, but like that's kind of the two biggest things that we're focusing on, right? We really want to improve our clients like self-esteem and self-efficacy, because at the end of the day it kind of comes down to an enhanced emotional well-being, right? That's not only the psychosocial changes but also the physical ones, right? um when we talk about like overall like emotional well-being, we know that like this can be affected by psychological things, dramatic life-changing events, right? As we get older, we're going to know more people who are going to experience like the loss of a loved one, or we might feel like feelings of loss from retirement. Do you guys remember when frickin' COVID first broke out, and we were all just like sitting at home, and like like I remember like Sochi, we didn't have like a plan in place for Sochi, and like schools were one of the very first things that like forcefully closed down. And so we had to find a way to like reignite the PFT program online. And like like I get a lot of my feelings of self-worth sometimes from where it is not a healthy thing that I do, by the way, but like I do get like, I tend to be a little bit of a workaholic, and so like I have like a lot of like my self-worth wrapped up in what I can put out into the world, which is like, I like to think of the idea that like the reason I even got into teaching was like, I love working with clients and helping people like, take control of their health. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what if I can help other people foster those same things? And it's like anybody that they work with, kind of comes back to like feeling like I got to help, like I helped the trainer that helped 5,000 people, you know what I mean? Like, and so that's kind of what got, so when Sochi shut down, I had like really intense feelings of like loss and like anxiety. And I was like, oh my God, like my identity is like wrapped up in this, right? That sometimes happens, right? Like Simon, I'm sure that if we losing the idea like coaching entirely can be like a really negative thing if you just like don't get to work with your team, right? Like that can be really rough. um and so like everybody kind of had this like very intense, it was a really like dark time when COVID first broke out. And so that can like now imagine like you're just a senior getting to a place of like retirement, right? That can be a very dramatic event. I think we look forward to retirement, we get excited about retirement, but sometimes it can lead to these negative feelings. It's like, well, what do I do with my day? I've just spent the last X number of years doing the, having something specific to do every day, and now I don't get to do that thing anymore. And so we do see these like, we see these like feelings of anxiety, we see these like depressions, sort of come from these negative psychological sort of side effects here, right? But we do also know that habitual exercise has very positive emotional benefits. I know that like for me, when COVID first broke out, and I didn't have like my gym membership anymore, which is not awesome. So I started doing body weight stuff like in my driveway, which by the way, I just don't love. I just don't love body weight exercises. I never have. I think it's fun. I think that stuff is super impressive. But I think I am like, it is playing to all of my weaknesses, like, big long arms and like long levers and stuff, like, I was talking about this the other day. I was like, you don't see a lot of tall calisthenic people. And so I was just like, I was so mad and I hated it. And that's why I started building like my home gym and stuff. I immediately went and bought like the materials to like build a deadlifting platform, and then found like a squat rack online and, all this stuff. And now I've got like my home gym. But like, that was like a great way for me to sort of like reduce my stress. But before I was able to get any of that, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to work on my uphill sprinting for a bit, because that's very intense, it's very difficult, and it's something that I can like commit to. And so I would drive to Fryman Canyon, and like get up that uphill, section. And I was basically just trying to drop my times. I was like tracking how long it took me to get from the bottom at the parking lot. And I would just hit my stopwatch and just sprint up the hill. And some days were short sprints, it's short actual sprints, and other days were like long, endurance runs. But like my goal was just like, how fast can I, gonna get up this hill? And that became like my quarantine goal. It reduced my stress, it improved my mood, all of those psychological like symptoms of like anxiety and depression, they sort of melted away. So that's like, just a personal example of like where I've dealt with this. Now imagine like a senior client who's finally, after all these years of like working and stuff, maybe they've had goals of getting in shape, or their doctor has told them that if they exercise, it can help with their knee pain or back pain, right? Imagine like somebody who's had all these years, and they've been had these physical goals that they maybe had, but they've never really had time because they work, and now they've finally got time to sort of work on themselves, right? They finally got time to sort of work on these things. That's exciting. A gym membership is a really exciting thing. Working with you, the trainer, is a really exciting thing to these senior clients. So I'm stoked for you guys, because like I said, I love working with senior clients, right? And these are all the things that people have sort of conveyed to me over the years. And now that I've been through, it's funny, like I don't have as many senior clients right now, because I'm not working in like a gym setting anymore. I just have my like private clients, and a few of them, older adults and stuff. But it is very funny to me that like now that going through COVID has given me like a little bit of a deeper perspective for like these things that my senior clients have told me over the years, of like, yeah, I used to love like going to work every day, and I just don't have that anymore. And so like, I love coming to the gym. It's a really fun thing to be able to like work on fitness goals. And I think like at the base, we don't think of like somebody in their 60s, somebody in their 70s. We don't think of them as like, goal-oriented fitness people, but I would absolutely disagree with you, because I've seen it for years now, if that's sort of where our head's at. So love that. Love to improve that emotional well-being. We also know that like there's a physical aspect of it, right? How our client physically feels affects that. I know that I get cranky when I've got aches and pains. Psychologically, how people think, when you do accomplish those goals, it means that like you just feel much more confident, in your ability to do it again. And then like a social aspect of it. There is a social aspect to working out that's really fun for our senior clients. You know, you are a staple in this person's life, which is great. You know, they're showing up consistently, and that's another thing that we know about human brains. Like, we are very task oriented. Well, we're also very routine oriented. I know that, like, you know, I like to feel like I'm not always just like a routine person. You know, I like to think that like I'm doing different things at different times, you know. But at the end of the day, like, I do know that like a lot of times I'm my happiest when I stick to like my routines, you know. I'm up at 6 to walk the dogs, yeah, when my roommate's gone, and then like, you know, come back in here and then do like a little bit of light reading. In the morning, and kind of like set out my journal and make sure that I have like my daily task list and stuff. You know, and then teach the morning class. After that, start working on the uploads. Couple appointments start to show up. You know, all of like those routines that we kind of settle into, they make you feel good because they are like little tasks. You know, when you accomplish like part of your routine successfully, you feel very accomplished, you know. That feeling sort of washes over you. And so a lot of times, like, the fact that like our clients have an appointment to show up to consistently, that they can, and, you know, get into that routine, definitely makes them feel good, and improves that overall quality of life that we're talking about. Yes, like I said, so those are like really big things. My notes are a little out of order today. I'm like having trouble. Where are we at? Sorry, just making sure I'm in the right spot. Yeah, I gotta go all the way down here. So yeah, and I already kind of covered this. This is so, I might have messed up my notes the last time I taught this class, or I moved my PowerPoint slides around or something. But we do know, like I said, effectors of emotional well-being, like I said, feelings of loss, and then, oh, and then we know that, like, yes, habitual exercise. Okay, that's where I'm at. Habitual exercise can reduce our stress. It can improve our mood, and it decreases those negative psychological symptoms. So, any questions on any of this or comments? You know, anything jumping out at you guys? How are we feeling so far before we get into the rapport section of this?
No questions, thank you.
Alrighty. Okay, so that's sort of what our clients kind of going through, right, in general. Now we've got kind of an idea of some of the baseline emotions that our clients are dealing with, right? But we also have to remember, like I said, they're hiring us to improve that quality of life, right? Where they're looking for that improved quality of life through, you know, getting with a trainer, starting to exercise regularly. So we've got to figure out how to make some lifestyle changes, you know, in our client, which means we need to lead them, right? We need to make sure that like they are willing to work with us and trust us, and, you know, listen to us when we're telling them to do 5 more reps, even though they don't want to, you know, like, so how are we going to do that? Well, again, this kind of comes back down to that idea of developing rapport. And this is true of, like, you know, this always seems kind of weird to talk about in a program design space, right? It's like, aren't I here to like learn how to like write programs and stuff? And it's like, well, trust me, like, the programs you write are going to be difficult, and you are not going to get anyone to do them if they don't trust you. So this is absolutely part of that whole process. Trust me. So we know that like we need to be able to develop enough rapport with our clients that they are going to be willing to go through the routines that we are writing for them, right? And so rapport is an individual's feelings of trust towards someone else, right? We want to, you know, you want to continually ask yourself, does your client feel safe? You know, do they feel like this exercise is going to injure them, or do they feel like it's going to help them? Do they feel comfortable, right? Do they feel like this is a good space that they can open up and like give it their all? Or do they feel like they're going to, you know, avoid certain exercises because they might feel foolish? And do they overall just trust you, right? How, you know, continually evaluate whether or not you feel like your client trusts you. Because the more trust that they have in you, the more rapport you have with them, the easier it's going to be for them to reach their goals, because they'll listen to you. And like at the end of the day, like you're the one leading people through these sessions. So knowing how to build rapport is a big part of like what we do. It's how we sell personal training, which we're going to talk all about like next module. We've got our sales class that's coming up. And I know that like sales sometimes is like, not one of the biggest things that it's not like something that a lot of trainers like look forward to. But it is absolutely a huge part of our career. Like if you want to help people, if you want to work with clients and have like a client base, that's great. You don't get to do that if you do not sell them sessions. If they don't have sessions, we don't get to work with them. So sales is something we should be excited about. And I know like there's a lot of like sleazy sales out there. We've all gotten those. We've all received telemarketing calls. Like, we've all sort of been pushed at a car lot probably at some point, or something like that. But like, we need to develop like trust in we need our clients to trust us, so that we can like help them achieve what it is that they're setting out to achieve. So how do we build rapport, right? How do we do this? Well, we've got a couple simple steps here. First is really just to like be a good communicator. You want to ask and listen, right? Ask your clients specifically what it is they want to achieve. Ask them what their worries might be, what big obstacles they think that they're gonna run into, and what they might be like a little bit nervous to actually overcome. If we can do that with our clients, and we can get to the heart of like what it is they're motivated by, that is instantly going to be like, that's going to give us understanding of our client and make it much easier for us to, build a relationship with them. I can't tell you how many times like somebody will come, and this is, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys, I would say 50% of the time it's this actually. 50% of the time people come and they're like, they're hiring me, and and I'm like, so what is it that you want to work on? Like, what's your goals? And they're like, oh, I just want to lose a couple pounds. And I'm like, okay, great. So what do you mean? First off, like, what do you mean by a couple pounds? And then like, help me get to the heart of like why that's your goal. What do you like? What's really motivating you? It's like, well, and the example you hear a lot of times is like, they'll go, well, my doctor just said like, my cholesterol's in a really bad place and this and that. And so it's like, okay, so really what's important to you is like your health. You boiled it down and sort of, synthesized out of it. I want to lose a couple pounds. You know what I mean? Right? Like that translates in your head. That's the same thing to you. But to me, those are very different goals. And don't get me wrong, actually, losing a little bit of body fat is going to help with that, heart, cholesterol and stuff, which, we hit the head on the nail, we hit the nail on the head. But I'm trying to get an idea of what's actually important to you. What's important to you is your health, okay, great, right? Or then we see like somebody's like, yeah, I want to lose a couple pounds, right? That's again, like that's the biggest goal you hear people say all the time. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, what's the reason for that? And it's like, oh, well, I'm trying to look good for, my daughter's wedding is coming up in 6 months or something like that. And it's like, okay. So again, yes, like that does translate to like a weight loss goal to me, but it sounds to me like what's important to you is like, you want to have this like special day memorialized by like looking or feeling, confident, in like a specific outfit or something like that. Okay, great. Like that will translate to a weight loss goal. But like the weight loss, it seems like is less important than like, the actual event itself, right? Or somebody will say like, they want to get in shape. And it's like, well, what do you mean by getting in shape? And it's like, well, I want to, I'm just noticing like I've had more aches and pains, when I'm playing pickup games lately. And it's like, all right, so we want to improve our athleticism. So a lot of times we want to really ask further, deeper questions so we can get to the heart of like what it is that our client is really trying to achieve. And this is where you guys get a chance to practice your active listening. So active listening, again, placing 100% of your attention on your client, learning how to like make eye contact when you are talking with someone is a big part of that. Asking questions related to what it is they're saying. Guys, this is a fun little trick. If you want someone to feel heard, repeat back to them what they said in the form of a question or in the form of a confirmation. So like, for instance, if you're talking to someone and you really want to make them feel like you are listening to them, say, oh, so what you're saying is, and then just repeat it directly back to them. It doesn't necessarily add anything to the conversation. It doesn't necessarily make anything that much clearer for you if you already had a really good understanding of what it is they're saying, but what it does do is it conveys that you are paying attention. And that's a really, really great example of how to do that, right? Actually, everybody but Marvin, I think, will remember this, but we all had David, 18-year-old kid in PFT right now. He just went to Capstone. But David, I think, is honestly like such a good example of what he does, such a good example of active listening, because a lot of times what he would do is I would say, does anybody have any questions? And he would go, so what you're saying is, and he would basically just repeat back in his own words what I'd said. And I was like, yeah, you nailed it. It was never a question of like, clarifying anything. He always had a really good understanding in his own ways, but it was like a really good opportunity. And I was like, you know what, that's a really good example of active listening. And I think like when it comes down to it, David is going to be a terrific salesperson when it comes to his personal training and stuff, if he can translate that into the confidence that's it. Because I also think that sometimes we have a negative image of like doing sales, and I think if I remember asking him, he has that as well. But if he can get over that, people are going to adore. They will throw money at him because of that. That active listening is a huge deal, right? So learning how to make eye contact and maintain that so that they feel heard, asking questions, and then like learning how to just like not fidget, not glance at your phone, look at your watch, those little things. I think we all kind of struggle with that, especially like, I know that I tend to be like an auditory person. Like I'm an auditory learner. And so like I can absorb a lot the first time I simply like hear things, because I can hear the sort of musicality of it in my brain, and it just absorbs very easily, which makes it particularly difficult for me to actively listen sometimes, because I listen easily enough without putting the attention on. And so like when I'm in like a relationship, that is something that I actually pay attention to quickly, because let me tell you guys, I've been told for years that I am not a very good listener. And so like it has taken like intentional effort to become a better listener. I would argue that I'm a great listener, but what I am conveying externally does not show that. I think that like I always hear what somebody's saying, but it is not being conveyed that I'm absorbing it. And so like that has taken like conscious effort from me, and I think that's true in sales as well, especially because like we're the expert. People are coming to us, so we think that it's easy enough for us to just convey our expertise, and just spout out a bunch of stuff. But if your client doesn't feel heard, they are not going to feel that they trust you. So we are trying to build that trust, and active listening is a key thing there. Practice your active listening skills, guys. It's one of the best pieces of advice I can give you, honestly. Maybe I'm a little biased because it's something that I worked on intensely, but it will make the process of selling yourself so much easier. I'm keying us up for next mod. we will be saying these same things in about 6 weeks. So let's take a look at some of our other barriers here, right? Developing that communication, developing that rapport, right? How we can address these things. So some of the other, like, if we're trying to build rapport with our client and they are a senior client, we do need to address any of their concerns that they might have. For instance, they are going to have some fears of injury, right? We want to address that like right off the bat and say like, well, that is what we are directly working towards. We are trying to reduce your risk of injury. It's scary sometimes, doing certain exercises. Exercise is intense, it's difficult, it's hard, it wears out the body, right? So we want to make sure that our client reduces that fear of injury. We want to address their fear of intolerance. If they feel like they don't belong in the gym, we want to convey to them that everybody belongs in the gym. If they have just like discomfort in like a health club in general, right? We want to sort of address that. Sometimes senior clients, one of the physiologic differences we talked about yesterday is that sound masking. So the more like sound there is in an area, sometimes it can kind of mask the things that they're trying to listen to. And so a gym, which is a very loud environment, lots of people dropping weights and, things like that. It can be kind of a challenging place. So if you have like a quiet little corner that you can train your senior clients in, do it. I recommend it absolutely. Those steps that you build, that we were moving the other night, for those of you who were in the other day, I think it was maybe the morning session, we're moving those out of the way. Those are a great tool. And you just take one of those, build it up in the corner, go grab some dumbbells, and you're off into a quiet little space. Your senior client's going to feel a lot more comfortable. It's a great place to do your fitness assessments because it's very private feeling. It's a little bit quieter. It's easier to communicate. And again, the whole goal of a fitness assessment is to build enough rapport that your client is going to like purchase personal training afterwards. And then address that lack of time. That's another really big one when it comes to, getting somebody interested in training, right? A lot of times people are like, oh, I just don't know how I'm going to find the time to exercise, right? Again, I would argue you got to find the time now or the time will be made for you later, And I know that sounds like, that sounds like somebody who is obviously invested and interested in exercise. You know what I mean? And obviously that is true to who I am. But that does not make the sentence itself untrue. It is a lot longer dealing with heart disease. There are many more hours dealing with heart disease spent than there are hours spent being physically active. And it doesn't have to be driving to the gym and going to the gym. It can just be being physically active, but that's what people don't really see, So address that lack of time right out the gate, I know that it sounds like a lot when we're exercising, but addressing that is huge. The next step we want to do is we want to praise our client. Continually praise them towards meeting their goals. We are trying to maintain rapport with our clients. So when they do achieve something really cool, give them props, this is why you see gyms, like one of the things CrossFit gyms, like most CrossFit gyms do that I think is really smart. They do create, this is like a double-edged sword a little bit. They do foster an environment of competition, which I think is a bad idea when it comes to like injury rates, if you are fostering a strictly competitive environment. Like, I don't know if anybody in here has ever goofed around with CrossFit before. CrossFit has like a reputation of being very injury prone, which I don't think is actually fair either. To the trainers, I think like a really good trainer can try their best to like keep people from getting injured. And if you keep yourself safe and you stay humble at CrossFit, I think it can be a very safe environment to work out in. There's nothing inherently dangerous about learning how to do a hang clean. There's nothing inherently dangerous about lifting weights. but the environment that it fosters of like competition, where it's like it's a very score, it's like the workout has like a score almost, and you're trying to compete against the people around you. That environment, I think, causes injury, because we are often willing to sacrifice our safety to beat someone else, like again yesterday, how I was kind of complaining to you guys about like I did that bad demo. I was like, don't foam roll your low back, and I like did, and I was like, oh god, and my back was like a little stiff. I went and played Ultimate yesterday, and I probably shouldn't have. By the end of the day, I was like, oh, my back is killing me. And then I just spent like 20 minutes like working on it, and now I feel fine today. But probably shouldn't have done that, and there were times where I was like, okay, I'll go and I'll take it easy. And then once I got on the field, of course I didn't take it easy, we were down a few points, and so then I played extra hard and tried to like squeak out a win. That's what humans do, and so I think CrossFit fosters that competitive environment, which is not very safe. But on the flip side, look at how freaking dedicated CrossFit athletes are. They are so excited. If someone does CrossFit, they will tell you that they do CrossFit, right? It's like that classic joke, how do you know if somebody does CrossFit? Wait, and they will tell you, someone's going to bring it up. The reason why is because they love it. They're stoked about it. How do we take that? How do we get our clients so stoked about working with us that they're going to go blabbing about it all the time? They have fostered an environment where they continually praise their members and make their members feel really good about themselves. Now, we want to get that same type of environment. One of the things about like getting your name up on a whiteboard and just writing it there makes you feel really good, right? So positively reinforce your senior clients, probably reinforce all of your clients towards meeting their goals, and like take the time to be like, hey, you're killing it. Like, just so you know, like you deserve a little bit of special recognition today. It makes you feel really, really, really good. That positive reinforcement is a super effective tool, right? We want to continually praise our clients towards their successes, and that's a super great thing. I know that like I tend to have to take the time. I don't have anybody else, like I don't have a gym partner or anything like that. But again, I'm always writing stuff down in my workout journal. And I came up with like a little bit of iconography that helps me reinforce my own goals. So like whenever I'm doing like double progression, I think we've talked about double progression before, but the way double progression works is like, I think I was talking about this just actually a couple of days ago. But it's like, let's say you give your client like a rep range, like between 10 and 12. Like I'm doing between a whole workout that's built around double progression right now. So I'm doing 6 to 8 reps for my heavy compound exercises, 8 to 10 reps for my other compound exercises, my secondary lifts, and then 10 to 12 reps for isolation movements right now. And that's sort of like how I have my routine sort of broken down. So 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, right? It's right in the middle of the hypertrophy rep ranges. For those of you who've, that's literally like 6 to 12 is hypertrophy, right? And so what I'm doing is like, if I get to all of my sets and I get to the high number, right? If it's 6 to 8, if I get like 8, 8, 8, and 8, the next time it's time for me to go up. So what I'll do is like write myself like a little arrow and circle it. But then I always put like a little explanation point next to that as well. Exclamation. I always put like a little exclamation point next to it. And the arrow tells me the next time I like open up my journal, hey, it's time to go up with the weight, right? But the exclamation point is saying, hey, nice job, other Brad. Oh, thanks, other Brad. Like it's literally just like I put that in there as like a little like pat on the back for myself. That's all it is, So then the next workout, when I'm moving all my numbers over to my workout journal, let's say it was, 100 pounds this time. Well, now it's 105 the next time. And what I do with that 105 is I'll put a little like black box around it, and I'll put another exclamation point there. And that is just a little thing to make me feel a little bit better about progress that I'm making. Do this for yourself, guys. Like, pat yourself on the back. Take the time to like tell you that you are doing well. I promise it will transform your workouts. Tracking things like that. Again, it's why workout journals, in my opinion, are the #1 tool that everybody should have. So positive reinforcement, super effective tool, even at just reducing like aches and pains. Just taking that moment to give your client like a high five and be like, hey, nice work on that. Wham, that's the kind of thing that keeps your client coming back. And it is so small. It is so small, but I promise, like, that praise really does have positive benefits. And then also make sure that you are continually communicating the benefits. Don't forget to help your clients recognize the positive benefits they're feeling. Those of you, actually, no, we talked about it this module. Remember when we were talking about coaching in our kinesiology class, we were talking about the nervous nervous system, I think. And we were talking about the difference between like knowledge of results and knowledge of performance, right? We were talking about like how to train our clients, right? We're trying to develop that motor control slowly over time. Well, one of the things that you want to do is you want to encourage your client with internal feedback to feel that they are like doing things a specific way. But then through external feedback, we want to highlight and show them what it was that they were doing correctly, right? So like we want to give them information about the quality of their reps and say like, hey, that looked really good. But then we also want to encourage them to feel the difference. It's like, did you notice how like keeping your chest up felt a little bit different than like your first set, right? Or when we were stretching out the other day, right? We want our clients to recognize, like, do you notice how that first set felt different from the second set? You were much looser on that second set. Helping them, encourage that. It's a great way to coach them towards like learning movements. Well, guess what? It's also a great way to keep them coming back continually for exercise. So communicate the benefits of exercise. Like, hey, how the knees been feeling lately? We've really been like working on like your posture and stuff. How are the aches and pains in your knees? Is that getting better? And they're like, you know what? It does feel better lately. And it's like, great, right? Sounds like our routine is working. Your hard effort is paying off. Again, and then again, like, always circle it back to like praising them. So if we can do those 4 main things, right? If we can do, if we can continually actively listen to our client and we can address any of their concerns and their barriers that they might be worried about, right? And we're praising our client while also communicating the benefits of the routine that they've been going through. And we're communicating the benefits of their hard work, circling it back to them. That's a great way to build rapport and keep our client like moving forward. That's what's going to keep them coming to the gym. That's what's going to get them the best results. Okay. So that's the rapport building process. Hopefully that kind of, man, honestly, I want that to feel a little bit like a sales technique, because that is our most powerful sales technique. And also morally, I think it's the best way to feel good about being a salesperson. I remember feeling really icky about having to do sales when I was younger. And now I'm stoked about it, because the better I am at it, the more clients I get to work with. The more clients I get to work with, the better stuff that I'm putting out into the world. So I'm excited about it. Questions on any of that, guys? How do you feel about the rapport stuff? Any concerns there? Feel like that makes sense?
All clear.
Cool. Parched today. I think it's going to be a humid day. We'll see if I'm right, but I'm always like super thirsty on days where it's like steamy out. We're like heading into May and freaking June soon. All the freaking June gloom. All right, so let's talk about like our 5 steps for greater achievement here. So this is also very similar to what we were talking about with like the building rapport with our clients, only this is a little bit more built around a client that you are already sort of working with, that you are helping like get to the next level, right? So this is another sort of 5-step process, but the 5 key area, and I will say, like, it's not necessarily like a process. It doesn't go in order, kind of similar to the last one, until you look at the end. The self-monitoring of it should kind of happen at the end, but looking at these 5 things, these are sort of like 5 pillars, is how I like to think of it. So first things first, again, help your client clarify what they want, get to the heart of what it is that they are really motivated by. This is not too dissimilar from asking and listening. You really want to kind of figure out what's actually important to your client, right? Get a clear sense of what it is they are trying to achieve so that you can actually achieve those things. So broader goals are often less effective than like specific ones. Getting to the idea. A lot of times when it comes down to it, older adult clients, they are most worried about avoiding illness and avoiding injury. Illness and injury are often like the 2 biggest motivators for most of our senior clients. And so that's why we have an entire chapter in the textbook dedicated specifically to how to work with clients who have PAD, coronary artery disease, diabetes, right? Osteoporosis, all those conditions, all those illnesses, all those injuries, directly related to that. And then like injury stuff, don't get me wrong, injury stuff, we are going to definitely focus more on when you guys get to capstone. When you're working with Mo, that's very much an injury sort of based section of the PFT. But yeah, that's the bit, and that'll eventually become the biggest thing that you'll get questions on once people know that you're an expert, like even yesterday, it was like the first thing. I had to sit out the first point yesterday at Ultimate because like my buddy Sam was asking me questions. He hurt his shoulder the other day and he was like, "What does it mean?" And I was like, "Well, first off, I'm not allowed to diagnose things, so I can't tell you what it means, but it sounds like blah, blah, blah." And I was like, if you're worried about it, you need to go talk to your doctor. But yeah, so first thing, clarify what your client really wants. Then once you've done that, you're going to work on your strategy, right? So strategy is going to help you turn like lofty ambitions into consistent actions. What a great sentence. God, I love that sentence, right? Lofty ambitions into actions. And then those ambitions just become, part of the regular thing. For me, I had to come up with a strategy to help me invest in the stock market. Like I said, I was not naturally good at it. And so what I had to do was simply learn how to like take the emotional side of it away, right? So what I did was I just asked my work. I was like, hey, is it possible to deposit my paycheck into 2 accounts instead of just 1? And they were like, yeah, of course. And I was like, great. And so I immediately was just like, I want a flat amount of money to come out of every single paycheck directly into this account. And so I opened a different checking account, and then I threw that checking account's debit card away. And that all the money that goes into that account every month goes directly into the stock market every time, without thinking about it. No hesitation, no emotion at all. That is birds fly, fish swim, and all the money that goes into that account goes into the stock market every month. And that way I did not have to think about it. And that money has grown. It's worth way more now than it was when I started doing that, that $500 has become $520, It may not be a huge difference, but like, hey, like I feel really good about it. And I know that I feel like I'm using my money rather than, burning it. Right. So that was a strategy that helped me turn like this ambition of learning how to invest into an action that I can do. Right. The same thing is true with like weight loss. Right. Maybe your client maybe losing 100 pounds seems so lofty and so difficult because like, hey, that is a long road. But we know that like, maybe let's not focus on like losing 100 pounds right now. Let's focus on doing something physically active 5 days a week, 6 days a week, right? Let's focus on, doing something physical consistently, right? Go for a walk with friends. Go play sports on the weekends, right? Doing something specific. Come up with a strategy, guys. Help your clients come up with those strategies. And then help them figure out what their priorities are, what their values are. You can develop short-term and long-term goals that will help with that. For me, my short-term goal, the first year that I was investing was to figure out how to get like $6,000 into like an account. That was like my goal. And so the strategy that I came up with for that was, $500 a month for 12 months. And then the next month I was like, or the next year I was like, what if I could double that, and then that became like a different goal. So these lofty ambitions eventually just become actions, which is great, right? So help your client come up with those strategies. Short-term goals, they don't always have to be something like lose 10 pounds if your long-term goal is to lose 100 pounds. Maybe sometimes your your long-term goal of lose 100 pounds can be achieved through the short-term goal of, I'm going to get a cup of vegetables at every meal. And that's just a rule of how I live my life, right? If I'm going to eat, there has to be like a certain amount of veggies that kind of come with it, right? And then what ends up happening is like, hey, guess what? Those veggies filled up our plate, and now we feel like we don't need to eat as much. So now suddenly we have control over our portions. Or, my goal is to get into really good shape. Great. I'm going to start with just like doing something physically active 30 minutes every single day, 40 minutes every single day, right? An hour out of my day. Does that mean like driving to the gym? Man, maybe, right? Maybe driving to the gym, working out for 30 minutes and then driving back. Because it's Los Angeles and traffic is crazy. But other times it's like, you know what? I can just go for a walk right now. I'm going to put on my favorite episode of a TV show that I've already watched. I'm going to put it in my pocket, and I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to listen to it. I'm going to go for a walk, Great. That can be a really good way. Or maybe, an audiobook or something like that, depending on what people are into. I had a client watch, hopefully one of you are going to get mad at what I'm about to say. But I had a client that I was getting on like a walking program, and this made me so sad. But they were like, you know what? I watched all of Breaking Bad in my pocket. Like they only listened to Breaking Bad. They didn't watch the show. And I was like, oh, you could have done that with a bad show. Like you could have done that with you got to watch Breaking. All right, whatever. I was so happy that they were, getting physically active, but what a waste. Oh, I know. It's a huge fail. I was like, you could have watched reality TV. Or you could have listened to reality TV, like, oh, whatever. But no, I mean, it was the thing that got them out the door. And that was awesome. That client, by the way, lost a massive amount of weight. I'm trying to remember how much what body weight she started at, but it was like upper 300s. And I actually don't work with her anymore. She moved back up north, but I still have her on Facebook, and she looks like she's doing really well. So you know what? It's great. I would have picked a crappy show or a podcast, but whatever, to each their own. So the next thing is you are trying to foster belief in your clients, help them, helping your older clients achieve success definitely comes from belief. This is where we can talk about one of my all-time favorite concepts, this idea of an internal, we call it a locus of control. An internal locus of control is the belief that you are in control of your life. I know that sometimes it feels like life happens to you rather than, like you are going through life rather than like, you are controlling your life. That is sort of shifting to an external locus of control. This idea that external things are more in charge of your life than you are. Again, I grew up, we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And so it was just always one of those things where it's like, well, like the rich have their money, and like, we have what we have, which is still great, never really all that bitter about it. It was never really like a pressing thing, because we always had enough, but it was definitely not like a situation, where we were, I remember kids taking like big trips every summer. And like, I was like, yeah, we get to do that too. The difference was that like my summer trips were always like moving furniture with my dad, like moving somebody across country. Um, so it was always one of those things where it's like, it felt like money was something that was very external, it was something that was like sort of out of control. And it was like determined by whoever it is that I worked for, it was a very external thing. But then like as I got older and as I started like developing this belief, it's like, no, I can make as much money as I put the effort into, and part of that is like working as a personal trainer. Thank goodness I ended up like working as a personal trainer, because it is a very like independent contractor thing, like I like working for Sochi because, and it is like a steady paycheck, which is great. It is fine. I make literally half as much as I do during like personal training sessions. Actually about a third as much with what my prices are. But like I also like the reason I do this job is because I like the fact that like I get to put stuff out into the world. That's what I enjoy. And that's what I get out of this job. And then the way I pay my bills is, through my private clients, right? And so like if I want to make more money through training private clients, that's where like I need to have the control over my life, right? I need to be the one to like go out and find those clients. Those clients are not going to find me, right? So if I start complaining about like, oh, I don't have any clients, right? That comes from this lack of belief. This comes from an external locus of control. I don't believe that I'm the one in control of things. Whereas like the reality is like, no, it's like if I want them, I have to go out and get them. And so put an ad out on Craigslist, or get up on findyourtrainer.com, or, all these other resources, or I'm going to network. I'm going to talk to friends and be like, hey, I've got some open slots. Who needs personal training? You know what I mean? Right. Those bits of effort, that bit of like time and energy that I put out there, right now, suddenly it goes from like an external thing of like, I just don't make enough money, to like, oh, now I'm the one, like, I'm in control here. If I want to make more, I need to do more. And then, you know what that means? I can do more. Now I've got a strategy. Now I've got a vision, right? So that's what we want in our clients, right? We want our clients to go from, oh, I just, I've got really bad genes and it's hard for me to lose weight, or, oh, I've got a really stressful job. I just don't have enough time, right? And it's like, no, like, let's like find a way to believe that you are the one in control of things, right? Yeah, you may not have like enough time to go to the gym, because yeah, guess what, you are not in control of traffic, but you absolutely have time, throughout like your day, like to start taking the stairs, to park further away from places, to walk instead of driving, if you're going somewhere down the street, like those little changes in your life are huge. Never use the moving sidewalks when you go to an airport. I know they're cool, it's a cool piece of technology and they're really fun. But like, no, burn the calories, take the time, put the effort in. Little things like that puts you in control of your success, rather than, sort of just waiting for it. So that's one of the things we want to encourage in our client. We want to help our clients, take baby steps and believe that they are, building confidence slowly, visualize, mentally practice things, and then again, we talked earlier about like efficacy, right? Well, this is one of the reasons why we like small short-term goals. It makes you believe in your own success. Because it's like, well, if I can do that, I guess I can do the next really difficult thing. For me, it started with like, well, if I can get $6,000 saved, maybe I can save, 30 grand eventually. And maybe eventually I can have enough money to buy a freaking house, So The next thing we got is persistence. This is actually one of the easier ones, but it literally just, it's about like learning how to move forward rather than, just collapsing under, sometimes we don't meet our goals. Sometimes we don't achieve as much as we wanted to, and that's all right. That's where, we learn how to be like resilient, right? Not every day is going to be your best day in the gym. That's what kind of sucks about it. We think that like progress is really linear. We watch like movies with like montages and it's like, oh, they got a little bit better. And then they got a little bit better. And then they got a little bit better. And they got a little bit better. And then eventually they won, like, that is not how real life is. Unfortunately, real life, you're going to get a bad night's sleep. And guess what? That's going to translate to a bad day in the gym. You're going to have somebody is just going to be spending 40 minutes on that squat rack while they're texting, like playing Angry Birds or something, and they're in your way, and you're just not going to get the piece of equipment that you want, and it's going to make you want to murder someone. There are going to be bad days in the gym, and that's okay. That's the reality. We want to make sure that we are rewarding successes and forgiving failures, learning how to like come back from those drawbacks. I got to tell you, this is speaking to me right now because I am in a major losing streak in my Frisbee games lately. Like, I don't know what it is, but I have been on some rough teams. I've been having some pretty decent individual days. Like, the individual stat sheet's doing well, but we are not winning as a team. And I know that it's just a slump, and I'm sure we're going to come back, but woof, it has been a rough, like 3-4 weeks lately. So that persistence, like that confidence that you're still going to get there. We want to encourage that. This is one of the reasons why we really like the social aspect of working out. Group exercise classes, again, CrossFit. It helps like, those networks, having a group of people who are all going through the same thing, and, they're going to be experiencing setbacks here and there, is really, really great, right? So that can help with that persistence, and it can help sort of rebound you from any of those setbacks. It also, like, you also want to make sure that you are fighting any of the boredom that your client has. This is one of the reasons why I like varying up your routine is so good. One of the things we're talking about in this program design class is learning how to change up a routine. If you're doing the same thing in the gym every day, it makes sense that you're going to plateau. So let's change it up a little bit. Let's do something we are not good at so that our body goes, oh no, I suck at that. I need to get better. And then it adapts and overcomes, and you get better at it. Go from I love doing like little, like I said, I love like little themes in my workouts. I'll give my client I'll build like a fun routine for them, based entirely on dumbbells. And then like the next month, I'll switch it up and do an entirely barbell based routine, and then like go into a cable based routine, go into machines. I use machines every now and then. I'm not a big machine guy personally. I like free weights, but like it can be a fun little plateau buster. And then when they come back, it's like, hey, I know we got stuck on the bench press, but we've been doing some chest press, we've done some cable stuff. Let's see what happens now. And then all of a sudden they break that through that plateau. They bust through that wall that they were hitting. Feels great. Feels really great, And then there's the learning aspect of it. Helping particularly older clients, but really just anybody, make those course corrections, right? This is one of the reasons, again, why I do encourage you guys, like encourage the self-monitoring, right? Use the freaking journal, because that journal is a really great way. That recording device is a really great way for you to record progress, and measure the progress towards your goals. Like I love, again, like just to show you, like it works really well with double progression, but it works really well with linear periodization as well, just going up with the weight consistently. But if you just think of like, let's say this is like, set 1, set 2, set 3, set 4, and maybe we're doing 5 sets here. I should put this over here. Oh, sorry. Oh my God, that is so annoying. Over there. There we go. So let's say I'm doing like, 6 to 8 reps, right? So set number 1, I'm feeling really good. I just got finished warming up. So maybe I get 8 reps there. And then maybe set number 2, I'm feeling really good. But then like it gets a little bit tough, 6. And then maybe I don't even make it on the last one. Maybe I only get like 4 reps because I'm just exhausted by that point, right? Well, now it's like I look at this and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to average that out next time. Let's see if I can get 8 and 8 again. Let's see if I get 8 on that 3rd set. And then I'm going to aim for 6. Maybe I could feel like I'm doing 8 here. Like I'm in the middle of my workout. I'm like, you know what? I feel really good. Maybe I can go for 7 reps here, but it's like, oh, but I know I didn't even make it on my first week. So you know what? I'm going to aim for 6. And then I get 6 again. Great. There's some freaking progress, right? And then maybe it's still just, the same. Maybe I didn't progress this week. That's okay. I'm still progressing overall. And then eventually, it becomes something like that. And I just get a little bit better every time. If I'm looking at this, I mean, you can see, right? Where I'm looking at it directly and I can see progress, right? And I could even math it out if I want to, like average reps here, 8 plus 8 plus 7 plus 6 plus 4 divided by 5, right? I was averaging 6.6 reps the first week, and then 7.2 reps the next week. And then 7, that's right, I didn't change it. 7.2 the next week, and then 7.8 reps. I'm almost there. I'm almost averaging 8 reps. I can see it. I can literally visualize it directly. Workout journals are just the best freaking tool you get. And they're like $10 on Amazon. Or you can go to the dollar store and, write out your own journal if you want to put the effort in, right? Training logs, food journals are huge. All of those things that are recording your behaviors, this is why gyms will sometimes give out like those prizes for, whatever member checked in the most. The gym doesn't gain anything by actually getting their members to show up more often, weirdly enough. I know it sounds a little weird and cynical, and it kind of is, but like they don't actually, they get just by having the membership. In fact, for a gym, it's better if people don't show up, theoretically, on paper. But the reality is, the more people are motivated and meeting their goals and like showing up, and like if you can encourage your clients to show up more often and give them maybe a prize for being the member who checked in the most often, it keeps them motivated. And then that translates to more business later down the line for that gym. And that's why gyms do stuff like that. But if you look at it like mathematically, you're like, wouldn't it be better to just like sell more memberships than I can actually handle? Yeah, on paper. But the real world doesn't work like that. And that's what's so exciting, right? That's why we're looking at this psychology stuff today. Summarize it all up. So social changes obviously, affect our older adult clients the same as anatomical or physiological changes. And so we would just want to be aware of that. I think that all of this applies very much to our senior clients, but it applies to just every client that walks through the door. You really want to keep all of these things in mind. That's why we have an entire exercise psychology class. That's built a little bit more around like, actually changing goals and using different tools to overcome certain things. But like learning how to do all this, like sales is psychology, right? And so if you're going to have clients, you need to know a little bit about that psychology. And so we've got sort of 2 big things here. We've got our 4 steps for developing rapport, and we've got our 5 steps for greater achievement. And honestly, greater achievement sort of translates to rapport. So they really kind of come down to the same sort of situation. But those are sort of the biggest areas, right? We're focusing on getting our clients to trust us, and we're focusing on getting our existing clients to achieve more. And we are leading the way on that. And that's it, guys. I got nothing else today. How y'all feeling?
I'm good to go over here. Good stuff.
Hey, love that. Let me kill the recording here.